and welcome to another episode of the Gone Gold podcast with me, Simon Hill, as always. Now, before we get into this exciting episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And thank you to everyone who has watched, listened, or downloaded episodes of the Gone Gold podcast. I really enjoy doing these and bringing you closer to your favourite wrestlers. The talent is unbelievable out there, and I've got so many more exciting episodes and guests lined up for you. Don't forget, you can check out Simon H Official across all of social media. We'll have announcements on new guests, exclusive footage and content, and that's all coming very, very soon. But first of all, let's crack on with this episode. This is our first international superstar on the Gone Gold podcast, a very good friend of mine who I have a lot of respect for. He's not just a great in-ring talent, but a huge personality and ball of energy outside of it. We talk about his time in WWE with NXT and 205 Live, talk about matches with the likes of Bull Dempsey, Baron Corbin, and also that infamous 205 Live match with Mustafa Ali. We also talk about his match with his idol, Rey Mysterio Jr. That match in particular is so exciting to hear. The way that this person describes and talks about the passion and heart in that match and what Rey Mysterio had to say afterwards. We talk about so much more, including his band. Ladies and gentlemen, you may know him by several other names, but the one he goes by is Mecha Wolf, and it's next. As I said, we are joined all the way from Tijuana by Mecha Wolf. Thank you so much for giving up your time and joining us here on the Gone Gold podcast, man. Dude, I'm super happy to have you on, and you're my first international guest as well. So thanks, man.
No, thank you for having me, man. I'm really grateful, and I'm really happy that you're doing this too. So, really proud of you.
No, thanks, man.
I know you're on a personal level, so it's pretty cool.
No, man, absolutely. And we do know each other on a personal level, and we'll kind of get into that a little later. But, dude, first of all, tell me how you're feeling your time. It's lockdown life at the moment. How is life in Tijuana going over there at the moment?
Well, everything's really pretty much same as the rest of the world. Everything's really locked down. It's very boring, but I've had a lot of time to spend at home with my dogs and to train at home, which has actually turned my body into a different shape. And that's pretty cool because you go for so long just depending on heavy weights and training at a gym that you don't really learn to appreciate what you can do with your body by itself. So it's just awesome. Other than the fact that everything's closed, and you don't get to see your friends, it's not too bad.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've noticed you staying quite positive on social, and to be quite honest, I don't know if you know this. I don't think I've told you, but you taught me a new way to work out at home with the 52 deck of cards. So I watched your live stream,
you're
bro.
Like the third person that told me that, and I'm like, that workout's been around for years, and it's really easy. It's pretty cool.
It's man, you feel it, dude. You feel it real hard. So yeah, man. Thanks for the heads up on that one.
Yeah, dude, no problem.
Let's get into the career of Mecha Wolf. You have had a long career so far. We're the same age, but you have been around for a long time. You began your career under the ring name as Hammett, which you actually got from the lead guitarist of Metallica, right?
Yep. He was my favorite. He's now he's one of my 3 favorite guitar players, which a lot of people don't like him. But back then I was dude, such a mark for him. So I was man, that's gonna. And when I was a kid, we were backyard wrestle. So that's where I started. That was my first original backyard wrestling name. I was the Hammett. It's so terrible, but.
Well, that you began on the Puerto Rico scene. Obviously, you captured your first title at the age of 21, IWA Junior Heavyweight Championship. Can you remember that far back, that initial feeling of breaking into the industry and then capturing your first championship at 21?
Well, I was like a little brat, I started training when I was 15. And right away, I trained for a whole year because my trainer wanted everybody from our school to train for a whole for like he didn't want anybody from our school to leave the school without being fully knowledgeable and capable to represent his name because he has such a big name in the island and all over the world. So he's like, you guys are not gonna leave here. It's gonna be as long as it takes, but I'm gonna train you right. And then we would train from Monday to Fridays, you know. Sometimes on the weekends too, like we will have some of the students, we will have the key and we would still go to the dojo and train. That's how hungry we were. So like at a very young age, I started that whole process. And like as soon as I was done training, I was in TV. You know what I mean? Like, because our trainer was like, okay, you're not gonna go, you're gonna do a couple of indie shots and stuff, so you get your feet wet, and then we're gonna take you straight here. But it's all up to you, you know, if you can make it there and cut it there, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, winning a championship so young could be like very good and very bad. And I was a little brat. I was so cocky. And at the time, I was really like one of the only guys that was wrestling in that particular style and doing all this stuff and all these moves. So the crowd and the people were in awe and they called me like the new sensation, right? And at the time, there was three really important light heavyweight championships in the island, and I won all three of them. You know, so
Wow.
I won them in the same year. So you can imagine, you know, someone that's so young and has all this pressure, but at the same time, I think I'm God's gift to wrestling. So it's so bad and so good at the same time. It was a really cool thing because I made history, but I think that, I mean, if I would have had somebody like advising me to not be such a little prick, it would have been great. But in a way, it made me who I am today because early in my career, I wasn't taking any crap from anybody, you know, and I will not let it happen. So, you know, doing that and winning those championships at a very young age and such a big and important territory was huge for me, you know, and it also made me see both sides of the coin because I will always watch wrestling in PR as a kid, and then me when I grew up, I was like, holy crap, this is so different. You know, like when you watch it from one side of the coin and then you flip the coin and now you watch the other side and now you're part of the other side. It's very crazy because I used to pay to watch those guys on TV and now I was working them and now I was representing their companies as well as a champion. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, man. No, I can only imagine like the feeling there. And you said so. Obviously, your trainer's like, you know what, we're going to get you a little bit of indie exposure, and then we're just going to throw you straight on TV. Like, what's the thought process for someone that young to go, okay, so like I've got no choice here, but to make it fucking work. Like I've got to get straight into this because I'm being dumped on TV at such a young age.
Um, well, it was that whole pressure of like I have my trainer's legacy and name to carry, and then I also have something to prove, you know, because there's so much competition, you know, as you know in pro wrestling, there's competition everywhere, and especially at that time in Puerto Rico, wrestling was very, very competitive, and it was huge. There were shows from like Thursdays to Sundays, and then sometimes twice on Sundays, sometimes
Wow.
Wednesdays too. So like you were like working a lot if you got to get busy. So I had a lot of pressure, and I remember like when I signed my first contract with IWA Puerto Rico, and at the time Savio Vega was the owner. It was like Savio Vega,
Wow.
Miguel Perez, and it was Bushwalker. Luke was one of the bookers, and I remember like me going. This is how much my mind. My dogs are going crazy over here. This is how much my mind was working at the time. Me being so young that I wanted to be ahead of the curve, right? So I remember I was on the way to the office with one of the other wrestlers, and I knew how much he got paid, right? And this is right before I was going to sign my contract. So I'm like, you know what? This guy gets paid this much. I'm gonna ask for like $5 extra a night. You know, like to me, like as like I was like, I'm gonna if he's getting paid this much, I'm gonna ask for $5 over what they're gonna offer me because I already knew what they were gonna offer me, right? So this is me at 20, 21 years old, and not even. I was like 18 years old, so my mind's already like going like that. And I get to the office and I'm like, I will do it, but this is how much I want to get paid, you know? And they say yes. So those $5 turned into whatever, like 30, almost an extra $40 a week, right? From doing shows. And that's already how my mind was working, you know, at the time. So I was very smart to the business already because of my trainer, which I'm eternally grateful to, because I had to represent him in every single way. So I wasn't the greatest at business, just like he was, but I was very good at letting people know, like, hey man, like I'm good and this is how much I deserve. So
We're going to jump forward to 2014, where you would appear on WWE TV for the first time. It was under the ring name of Jesus Unet, I think. And that
yes,
was at
probably.
NXT against Bull Dempsey.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah. What are your memories of that match and that time where you were, approached by WWE to appear on NXT, and then obviously getting that opportunity to wrestle for WWE?
Well, it was like such a really cool thing for me at the time because I was like, I was always so hungry because that was to me like it should be like everybody's goal, final goal. And the people that say that that's not my final goal, they're probably just, just lying to you. Because the reality is like the first stuff that we watched as kids it was WWE, WWF, right? So the dream was always that was the final goal, just to get there and step into that ring. I always told to myself, I was like, I want to step in every single big ring of every big company in the world, right? And that was just like a personal goal of mine, not necessarily like be signed to a contract or whatever, but I wanted just to have the the satisfaction of being of saying, okay, I stepped in this ring and I wrestled it inside this ring, and the only ring that I haven't worked in of all the major companies has been New Japan's ring, right? So to me, I think that's pretty awesome. Like,
Absolutely.
that I've been able to do these things, and it's like tiny little goals that I set for myself early on in my career, and then I didn't. I ended up accomplishing them. So when I was contacted by NXT, which is so crazy because the first time I was contacted by WWE, my first dark match actually got canceled and never happened because I was gonna wrestle Ezekiel Jackson for his like TV debut
Wow.
years ago. I'm talking like 2011, 2012, I think. I was like really, really young. I had no business being there. But WWE called me for like a couple of shots, and then years and years later, that's when I got called for like NXT. At the time, I was living in Florida. Everybody that wants to make it, they all moved to Florida. So I moved to Florida, and I was one of the local guys, so I was always there backstage, and that was the night that I got an opportunity to be able to work, and I'm really grateful because like Bull was such a sweetheart, he was such a nice guy, like he knew that obviously like he knew who I was and he knew what I could do. And a lot of people knew who I was, and a lot of people knew what I could do because they knew me from the Indies. It was like half the locker room at the time at NXT were my buddies in the Indies, which was really cool. So everybody was super nice. So me being able to do that to me at the time was like really, really awesome. Like it was an opportunity that not a lot of people will get, but it took me a lot to get there. So it felt like even though it was really short, and a lot of people might seem like, oh man, you just got squashed or whatever. And at the time, I was really over in Puerto Rico. That's what people don't understand. Like I was like in the contendership for the Universal Championship, which is the biggest title in wrestling history in Puerto Rico. It's been around for a lot of
Wow.
years. Like, you know what I mean? Like Ric Flair had it, like Abdullah Butcher, like all the greats had that belt. And at the time, I was competing for that belt. So I was like this big shark over here in Puerto Rico, and I'm over here getting murdered in NXT. So it humbles you in a way, bringing it back to when I was younger and I was so cocky, and I thought that was wrestling's, God's gift to wrestling. So like me being able to like get there and experience it and say, hey man, like I stepped into an NXT ring was pretty cool. in my career so early,
So you made a second appearance, July 2015. You lost to Baron Corbin in under 5 seconds, something like that. Was there any frustration that you couldn't showcase that as much as you wanted to at somewhere like WWE?
Not really, because it was like one of those things that I understood I understood my position at the time, right? I understood why I was there, and I could just say no if I wanted to and never come back, But in order to be in this business, you have to be able to take some punches, and you have to be able to roll with them, and you have to be able to adapt, and sometimes it'll be your day and sometimes it won't be your day. And one of the craziest things about that was that one match was the match that got me the most exposure, and it was the shortest amount of time, right? So when you say that, it's like, okay, let's think about it. The second I came out in that NXT program wearing that Super Saiyan armor, which was like my old outfit, the whole internet just flipped their stuff, right? Everybody went crazy. So I ended up in one of the biggest anime web pages in the world called Kotaku because of this like minute appearance, right? So I'm like, wow, I'm not even mad. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are like, dude, you're supposed to be so mad. Like you're literally at the time I was literally the Universal Champion already in Puerto Rico, the 50th Universal Champion in history, right? So
Wow.
I made history in Puerto Rico, and I was like defending my belt versus like Carlito versus like all these credible names, and I'm over here losing WWE in less than a minute. It should drive me insane, you know what I mean? But Carlos Colon, the owner of WWC, he's like, you know what, dude? I get it. Like, I understand. And when he told me that, him being like such an old school guy and like being like the guy that represented our country for many, many years before his son moved on to WWE and represented the country as well, he's the guy that was like, dude, it doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's cool. Because I apologized to him. I was like, man, I'm sorry. Like, like this is what you have to do. Like, and I remember when, just like a little fact, when we were backstage and like Triple H is like going over this stuff with us, he's like looking me dead in the eye, like to see if I would flinch. And I'm like, nah, dude, like, I got this, dude. Like, I'm not gonna like, you know what I mean? Like they were like testing me in a way,
Yeah,
and I
man.
think I passed because after that I had a bunch of other matches. So
Yeah,
you
no,
know what I mean?
absolutely. And you would go on to have some more matches, ones that lasted slightly longer, where you would be in a tag match with the likes of Enzo, Cass, Zack Ryder, Mojo Rawley as well. That was a match that you got to showcase a little bit more of who you were and what you were about at that time.
Yeah, that match was really crazy because we had like an original starting time and how long the match was gonna last, and it kept changing throughout the night. So by the time we got to the ring, like it was like, all right, guys, you guys have like no time, so now you guys can do nothing. You know what I mean? If you were gonna like throw one punch, and I was like, well, you can't do nothing. I was like the only guy that I think got like a couple of offensive maneuvers in our team, and I think it went pretty smooth. That wasn't too terrible.
No, 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 absolutely not. And yeah, we'll quickly get through the last match that you had with WWE. So obviously there was one with the Authors of Pain as well,
Oh
um,
yeah, I
which
almost
was
killed
that was a
John
big
Cruz.
match, man.
I remember.
Yeah.
We almost killed John Cruz. Poor guy.
Yeah, like poor John Cruz, like he suffered. I mean, yeah, that guy went through some big moves in that match. Like,
Yeah, he did. He
um,
did.
but then your last match on WWE TV would be for the Cruiserweight Classic tournament at 205 Live under your real name of John Yonette. Um,
Yep.
Talk to me about that match. It certainly appeared that you may have picked up an injury early on. You know, what took place in that match?
So I remember like a few weeks, or it might have been like even a month before all that. I had a match in California, and I did a dive, and I felt something really weird. And then I finished the match, and I had like a really bad like leg, right? The whole like towards like the middle and ending stretch of the match, I'm like, man, something doesn't feel right. So like I sucked it up for like I think another week or two, and I finally went to the doctor. And America's great healthcare system, the doctor just told me, hey, here's this brace. They did an X-ray on me, which I still say to this day is like the biggest mistake that I've done because I should have gotten a second opinion. And this is just me straight up speaking from the heart. They did an X-ray on me instead of an MRI, which was completely wrong. And then they sent me home and gave me a knee brace and told me wait a couple of weeks, wait a week and then start rehab, right? So that's what I did. So I had this brace and I started training again, and everything was okay, right? So I get the call from WWE, and at the time I'm telling you, I'm training legs. I'm in pretty decent shape, I'm in really decent shape, and everything is going great. And then I remember like when I got there to the arena, and I remember like this was another cool thing because I lived in Chicago for like almost 7 years when I first moved to the States. So Chicago is pretty much like a city that has a big part of my heart. A lot of my really good friends are in Chicago, and I cut my teeth in Chicago. So if you were, like when I started, like pretty much in the States, right? So it was a big thing for me because I remember one night I'm driving there with one of my friends who I consider like a sister, and I'll tell her, I'm like, one day I'm gonna wrestle there, and that was the Allstate Arena. We were just driving there. I think we were driving somewhere to a concert, and we're like jamming out to like, I think it's like some Iron Maiden or something, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna wrestle there one day. And fast forward a few years later, I'm in the Allstate Arena, which I've been there many times because I remember I've been there backstage with concerts for bands and stuff like that. When I worked with Resistance Pro, like the Smashing Pumpkins, they had a
Oh,
concert there.
wow.
So it was really cool being back there for wrestling. So
Mm.
I remember like me and Ali, like we known each other for years, like we wrestled so many matches, and like we were both like Chicago guys. So like I remember we were like texting each other like days before it happened because I texted him. I was like, hey man, I got called to do 205 Live, and he texted me back. He said, yeah, dog, you're working me. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm like, this is so like so surreal, like so full circle, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm like so healthy, and this is gonna be great. And I remember we're like, I got there, and like all the boys are there, and it's like all the guys that were in the indies, like all my dudes, all our dudes, like all our friends, pretty much, all my friends, and it was really cool. So when I remember me and Ali started like messing around before the match, guys, come on, buddy. My dogs are going to go crazy in a little bit. So I remember like we started like messing around outside the ring before the match, and I moved a certain way, and I kind of like tweaked my knee, right? And when that happened, as soon as that happened, I was like, whoa. And Ali's like, hey man, you good? And I'm just like so fucking prideful, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm good, like trying to just suck it up. So fast forward to the match, and like I had gone to the trainer's room. I passed the test. They checked me out. Everything was good. I remember I told the head trainer that my knee was that my knee had gotten messed up a few weeks before, and he like take me up and everything. They were super nice. WWE staff were great. They were all amazing to me. Fast forward to the match, dude. I freaking throw the first kick, and there goes my knee. So I'm like, man, we got 7 minutes. This is like the most time they've ever given me, you know what I mean? In like my whole career. So like, this is like, you couldn't make this much time if you put all my NXT matches together, right? So I was like, oh man, like I'm going to milk the hell out of this. So I'm trying to run, and I'm trying to do my best to keep up. And I'm just like, I have like a freaking stick leg. Like I couldn't bend it, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to do it, and I remember like Jason Harding was another thing, like the referee for that match. He was also in the Indies with us, so it was like it couldn't have been more perfect. It's like a guy that has like seen me throughout all my career and repped a bunch of my matches, and then a guy that I worked throughout all my career, and we've been like, and now we're here in Chicago, dude. It's like it could
Yeah,
have happened
man.
more perfect, and then that happened, and Jason's like, dude, I know how you work. You're not good. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it. And like I remember he's like, I'm gonna call it. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Like, you can see it like when I'm like going like this. No, I'm good. And I'm just like, I should have just, you know what I mean? Like it's just like you're being so prideful and you're so in the moment. And I'm like, nah, dude, they're gonna see my heart. You know, they're gonna see that I have heart, and I just, keep going. And like I think it's amazing that my friends made these decisions for us, and we were like, okay, dude, it's time to take it home. Let's take it home, and we went home. And I remember just being so heartbroken as soon as that happened, because I was like, man, because like there was people in the crowd that knew who I was. A lot of our friends were in the crowd, and like I remember just like sitting at the bar that night afterwards, after everything happened. I'm like, man, I fucked up, like I should have like just like called it or like said like, hey man, maybe like let's do this another day, and like actually got checked. But I went months later and got checked, and it turned out that I had torn my meniscus. And it sucked because it's like you get all these bills afterwards. It's like, well, what the hell, dude? I'm paying for this bill, but you really didn't help me. You know what I mean? You didn't do anything with me. If anything, you just prolonged something that should have been taken care of a long time ago. So it was really frustrating. It was like this beautiful moment that could have been like an amazing thing turned into like a nightmare.
Yeah, man. No, absolutely, bro. And yeah, it's such a shame because you watch that match and you can see the moment everything kind of starts to go wrong for you in that match, and you can see the referee going, "Look, I'm going to call it. We need to call it." And I can see it in you because I know you on a personal level. Like, you're too proud to go, no, no, no. Like, yeah, call it.
Yeah.
You're just like, no, no, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And then you try. I think you tried to run for the ropes, and you weren't moving very well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you
And
can,
anybody that knows me knows that I can move like so
yeah,
good too. It's like, and that's another thing too that people don't understand. It's like everybody in that ring were friends for almost a decade. You know what I mean? Like I remember Jason when he had his first few tryout. I stayed at his house the same day that I got my tryout. He had a tryout as well for reffing, and now he's an agent, for NXT. And it's just such a beautiful thing. It was such a perfect moment, and he's just also like just trying to be there for me and be like, no, I'm not gonna call it yet, but he knows he has to make the right decision as well because if not, his job is in jeopardy. And it's also like this big clash of emotions because we all know it's like if you couldn't plan this stuff if it was like Shakespeare, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it could have been so beautiful, but then it turned into a nightmare, and it just then Ali got really mad at me because he thought I took a moment. He thought I took a moment from him, and I felt like really heartbroken because I felt like I disappointed not only myself but a lot of my friends, and like it's like something that I should have just taken care of, you know what I mean, and really gotten looked at, and I ended up doing that, and now I'm the healthiest I've ever been, but I did it too late, I guess.
yeah,
It sucks.
yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, you say that Ali got mad at you. There was certainly social exchange between the two of you. I mean, do you guys have a relationship anymore? Do you guys still talk?
Actually, right now, which this is another thing that is like really cool and really beautiful about wrestling is like a few months ago. This was one of the big companies in the Chicago area in Illinois, called Dreamwave Wrestling, and it was like one of the first companies to give me a chance, to give a lot of Chicago guys a chance, right? So they did a reunion show. They haven't, I believe they were like on hiatus for a few years, and then they did a reunion show, and all the boys were there, all the guys that were there when we were younger, like when we started, like it was really cool, it was really beautiful, and I remember like, I always tell people like, and again, like when you're like real, you don't need to go and like apologize or like, hey, like whatever. Like sometimes you just need that one handshake and that good like look at the eyes and like hey man, we're good. You know what I mean? Like whatever. We were dumb. It was really dumb. And then I remember like after that show, that Dreamwave show, we were all at the bar and we finally like kind of like just hashed it out there. And I remember the next day, the next morning, it felt really good. It felt like I had this like boulder, like almost like Atlas carrying the world type of thing.
Yeah.
And like I felt like boom, you know what I mean? Like I just dropped it. Like, cause I've always been the type of person, I'm not like I'm as real as it gets. But I also like hate unnecessary animosity and like if we don't need to hate each other, there's no need. You know what I mean? Like, granted that I dislike fucking a lot of people, but I was like, dude, we were like really good friends at one point, and like, it's really sad that our relationship got to that point where it was so broken that he shot these tweets at me, and then I replied back, and I remember I deleted all those tweets because I was like, dude, it was so wrong. We were in such a bad mental place, you know what I mean? And I understand what he felt because he felt like I took something from him, and I totally know where he was coming from. Um, so when we were able to like hash that out, and then the next morning we like text each other back and forth, it was really beautiful. And it's like some of those things that people never see and they're never gonna see because like it's just stuff between me and him. But we're not the best of friends right now, but we're in a good place where we both forgave each other and we both were able to move on. And I think that's a beautiful thing, honestly.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And do you know what? I know not many people outside of your friendship circle or outside of just you and Ali will know that story. So I think it's really nice that now that this will get out there, that look, we're cool. Nothing else needs to happen. No one needs to talk about it because we're cool. We've had that
Yeah,
conversation.
and it's like, dude, fans can go and speculate and say whatever the hell they want, because that's what they're gonna do regardless. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I know me and him are in a good place, and that's all that matters to me, honestly. You
Absolutely.
know?
After WWE, you had a brief spell at Impact, where you recently actually posted a photo. Dude, it looks like such a different guy to you now. He just looks so babyface. Like now you're in such good shape. I mean, you were in good shape then, but totally different, man. So talk me through, because obviously that time in Impact as well was roughly around the same time as the brand change, the takeover, and all this. So, what was it like backstage, working at Impact at that time?
Well, I've been going to Impact for like pretty much as soon as I moved to the States, I was trying to get to Impact. I was like, dude, it would be perfect for my style and everything. And like at the time, I was really heavy into lucha libre training, and like I was like, dude, like I remember I have actually one of my dark matches on my YouTube, and this was like years and years ago. I had done like a tryout, and then I remember D'Lo Brown in my tryout. I wrestled once, and he's like, "Oh, you did too good. You're gonna wrestle again. I'll wrestle this guy." On my tryout, I was like, "Okay, whatever." So we went another 5 minutes with this guy right away, and I killed it. And they're like, "All right, you're gonna wrestle tonight." So they put me in a dark match with one of the guys, and we killed it, and it was awesome. And I remember at the time I was living in Chicago, so every time Impact would come to Chicago, I was always backstage. But I never got matches till I moved to Florida, and I started like going to like the Impact Zone and stuff with like my friends, and I was just like just hanging out with my friends, and I had my stuff because Impact was super laid back and super chill. So like I would just have my stuff whenever they needed me, and I remember I got it was crazy. Like I think I was in NXT and Impact within the same month because I got the checks like at the same time. I remember. So like I had a few matches for I did a few explosion matches for Impact, and then I did a pay-per-view which was like myself and Manic, who's Cedar Perkins now,
Mm.
for one of the ultimate. It was like one of those like exhibition pay-per-views, extravaganza, I believe. And the cool thing about that pay-per-view was like Jay Rios, one of my really good friends, and Lindsay Dorado were also in the pay-per-view, and it was like our matches were like in a row, so it was like really beautiful too. Um, other than that, dude, like I said, like everybody was so laid back. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everybody was so chill. The whole time I will always go there till like the later years. I think the last time I went there was when Alberto won the title.
Oh, okay.
Um, so like even then, like everybody was always chill. Like I even was there from in the Hogan years when Hogan was just like entered the company. So because that's when they were traveling to Chicago and they were doing like a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. So they would do like shows in the Sears Arena and then they would go like a few hours away somewhere in Illinois and take there too. So I was like following them all around, and then a few years later, I finally got like my shots at like TV and pay-per-views. So that was pretty awesome too. And like I said, everybody was super chill. Everybody was just really nice people, honestly, really laid back.
So you ended up at Crash in 2018. Some of your former WWE colleagues would come by after they were on a tour. I know that the Fight Club Pro did a tour over there as well with you guys. Um, but yourself and I believe at the time it was Garza Jr. You went on to defeat
Mhm.
NXT UK's biggest tag team at that point, which was Moustache Mountain.
Yeah,
Um,
that match was awesome.
what were your memories of that match?
I remember I was like, man, we have to just be on our top, like on our best level, because a lot of fans, what people don't realize is like the Crash is so close to San Diego that a lot of people come from America to watch Lucha Libre, so a lot of NXT fans were there. So it was really crazy because at the time I was like, okay, if WWE doesn't want to accept how good we are, we're gonna make them see how good we are. So we're gonna wrestle their best tag team, and then we're gonna take this thing to another level and see how much buzz it gets. And I remember like Trent and Tyler were such sweethearts, and they were all for just having a badass match. And it was just like magic. It was literally the first time we ever touched, and it was like just so smooth and so like I wouldn't call it perfect because nothing is ever perfect, but it was pretty damn close to perfection that match, and I'm really happy with it because that was like what set the pace for us to have other matches and stuff, and us coming over to the UK and them coming back. So it was really cool. I love that match.
You've wrestled both of those quite a few times, and every time that I hear about you guys stepping in the ring, it just seems like the perfect matchup. You guys seem to bounce off each other really, really well. I know that your most recent one was with your current tag partner, Bestia 666. You
My
guys,
brother from another mother.
and it's his birthday today, so yeah,
Yeah, it's his
happy
birthday.
birthday,
Yeah, that's
Bestia,
right,
man.
my
Um,
brother.
you guys captured the Crash Tag Team Championships of two close friends of yours, Ray Phoenix and Pentagon Jr., and that was just before they left for AEW. That must have been one hell
Yeah.
of a proud achievement for you.
It was like one of those things where it's like when it was all done, like I remember, me and Besky are just sitting there, and it's like we're like looking around our locker room because we've always sat in the same place, and since like I actually started in the Crash in 2017 because I left AAA in 2017. So like but I will sporadically go. I will do like one
Yeah.
show here and there. And I remember like me and Bessie are sitting there, we're like looking around, and it's like, fuck, we're the only one left now of the like original Crash guys. You know what I mean? Like
Uh,
Penta was gone, Daga was gone, Phoenix was gone, Garza's gone. It's like, dude, the core of this company is like, what the fuck, our friends, all of our friends are gone. So it was like one of those bittersweet moments because like you want to celebrate and you want to go crazy, but at the same time it's like, damn, dude, like we're not gonna see our buddies except for like family reunions and stuff. Because like that's another thing that people don't understand. Luchadors are very close.
yeah.
Like they all hang in this like family reunions. It's basically like we're all like a huge family, right? So you don't like you will see them on Thanksgiving and stuff like that, but like you won't see them at shows every weekend like you're used to. So it was like, man, that's it. Like we're our friends, you know what I mean? So, but it was such an awesome match because I remember we hit them with their finish and people thought it was over. Like I think it's the first time someone's done that to them, and and people were going nuts. That whole finishing sequence was nuts. So I love wrestling those guys. They're really good guys, and they're also some of the guys that are the least egotistical about their work. Like they'll put themselves out there to help you out. So that's really cool, you know.
Yeah, man, that's amazing to hear. And it's you've watched a lot of your friends go to the bigger companies now. The likes of Angel Garcia at WWE. A lot of your friends have gone to Ring of Honor, Ray Horace. Somebody you count as your sister, who you've known for many, many years, Tessa Blanchard as well. She's
Hmm.
killing it
Hmm.
in Impact.
Yep.
Is it
And
about
she was like the
time?
world champ.
She is, bro. She's killing it, man. And is it about time now that Mecha Wolf, followed his friends?
So it's really funny. I have a list of my goals in my fridge that I stare at every day, and one of my goals says get signed with Bestia. So like, if obviously if I had the chance to, just like he would, I'm pretty sure he would sign. But I think the perfect thing would be like if we could get signed together as a tag team. That would be like the perfect like the cherry on top. You know what I mean? Because again, like a lot of people, he probably doesn't even know it, but that guy's probably saved my life like a billion times and he doesn't know it. He's like my angel in wrestling, right? He's like not only a friend, but he's like just like a brother, you know what I mean? And he's done a lot for me that a lot of people are never gonna know, and I'm really grateful. So if I was ever gonna get signed with whatever company, I think it would be great if we could get signed as a tag team because we're a really good tag team, man. Like a lot of people don't like tag team wrestling. Personally, like some wrestlers don't like tag team wrestling, and I remember me before I started tagging with Bestia and Garza, and we started the whole rebellion thing like almost 4 years ago. I remember I hated tag team wrestling. Like I hated being part of tag team matches. You know what I mean? And once I started tagging with Bestia, and he would compliment me, and I would compliment him, and we would like do things without having to speak to each other, and then I would watch it back, and I'm like, man, that's when did we come up with that? Like, and it was just stuff that was just natural stuff, and like we had fun together. You know what I mean? It's not like, well, we're here arguing about who should do what, or whatever. We're a really cohesive unit, and he handles all the business stuff and all the traveling stuff, and I handle all the wrestling stuff, like the matches and stuff. So we have a really awesome chemistry, and I think any big company will benefit from tag team like that.
I absolutely agree. I've seen
That's
some
just
of
my
yours.
honest opinion. Not being
I
a
did.
brat or anything, but I
No,
think
no,
that's
I totally agree. I think I've seen some of the matches, and I love your finish that you guys do. It's incredible. It looks so brutal, especially the way Bested does that finish, and then you jump in with that 450. Like it's incredible, man. So yeah,
thank
I
you.
mean, we've only we've only seen you in the UK a few times at Fight Club Pro and OTT. You've gone up against the likes of More Than Hype, Kings of the North, Moustache Mountain, and the Hunter Brothers.
Man, I love it there. I was thinking right before I like moved to TJ, I said, man, maybe I should move to the UK. But yeah, I love it there. Everybody, all the people there are awesome. All the people that I've known over the years there are just amazing people. I known Martin and his girl just for Jane for so many years, and I remember before I even came to Fight Club, we're like one WrestleMania week, and we're all in New Orleans. So this is how long ago it was, and that's where I met Martin, and that's where I met Jane, and like they're like saying, dude, you gotta come over to Fight Club Pro, and I remember like I was like, dude, that'll be awesome. That was like then. So many years later, it finally happened. So I know a lot of people were like super happy about it. I know a lot of people were like, oh, this guy or whatever. But, again, it's like one of those things, like not everybody's going to like you, not everybody's going to hate you. So you just got to go and do your own thing. So when I was able to go there and I was able to go with Bestia, I was like, man, this is awesome because like, he's like my brother. So like, it's cool to share those experiences with people that you care about and people that care about you. And it's really beautiful because you get to see all these other countries and experience all this other things, and like a lot of people don't really like understand, but it's a beautiful feeling when like all your hard work, you get that reward of, okay, I'm going over to the UK, or I'm going over to Japan, or I'm going to Australia or Puerto Rico or Mexico or wherever you go, whenever you get flown from somewhere to go work and do what you love the most, it's a really cool thing, and it feels really, and it's one of those things that makes you feel proud, like, hey man, like I've been wrestling 18 years, almost 19 years, and it's like a thing that makes you feel really proud because all the miles, all the blood, all the sweat, all the tears, they all pay off at the end. So
Yeah,
it's cool. I love
absolutely,
it over there.
absolutely.
I love
So
the
yeah,
UK.
and then you went over to Ireland at OTT, and you went up against one of the most underrated, amazing tag teams to come out of Ireland, and in Europe, in my opinion, Kings of the North.
Yeah,
Um,
it was really crazy because like a lot of people were like kind of undermining that match, and I was like, I remember when we got there so late because like I think it was like me and Horace overslept in the hotel, so like the boys are waiting for us downstairs, and like it's like, hey dude, we gotta head to the show, and like we're just dead in the room because like dude, because we're like super jet lagged, you know what I mean?
yeah, man.
So like I remember we did like Fight Club Pro like we did like Fight Club Pro like either the night before, something like that, and then we had to fly to Ireland. So it was like pretty crazy. Like we didn't have like no time to rest, honestly. So I remember we got there like super late, and we just like rushed through the match. But it's like one of those things where it's like when you're working guys and know what they're doing, like you could see it. So like they were amazing, dude. They're like amazing workers. And it was like one of those things I was like, man, they hit hard, and that's what I like too. So like they were hard hitters, and it was a match that wasn't the most fancy and prettiest match that you're gonna see wrestling wise, but it was a match that you could see like, man, these motherfuckers, they're bad dudes, and they're not scared to show it. So going to Ireland was always like one of my big dreams. I'm a big Guinness mark. It's like my favorite beer. So like I was like, dude, like, oh man, all I want to do is wrestle and go to the Guinness brewery. And I was able to do both those things. So I'm really, really happy that I got to do that and to go there, and I can't wait to go back. It's one of those things where it's like, again, like I might not have like the greatest fame in some people's eyes because they don't know me and they just go by whatever they read online. But I love doing what I do. You know what I mean? And I think that nobody should prevent you from doing what you love, and
No.
nobody should be able to take your dreams away from you with just some tweets or some messages. So the fact that I was able to step into that country over every single obstacle and every single roadblock that was put in front of me, it was really amazing. And I really want to go back. The people there were amazing. The fans, the, the just the weather. I even like the weather. You know what I mean? Like it just reminds me of things that I've always wanted to experience. So you gotta think about the fact that I'm just a guy that was born in Puerto Rico on a really small island, and I was able to do all these things because of my passion. So
Yeah, no,
I'm really
absolutely.
happy, really, really happy, and I can't wait to go back. I love OTT, love Fight Club.
I would trade my weather for yours any day.
It's actually like it was really cold till like the other day. It started to get hot recently.
Yeah, it's really weird. Since lockdown, we've had about 5 weeks of sun pretty much every day. It's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy.
Cool.
I want to go back to 2016, if that's cool. You got one of the biggest opportunities of your career where you got to step in the ring with someone who you had grown up watching, um, almost idolized, and you managed to wrestle Rey Mysterio. Um, Talk to me, first of all, what was it like getting that call?
So I remember at the time, I was still doing NXT stuff, and I was a Universal Champion. At the time, I was the longest reigning Universal Champion of this era, right? So they were telling me, they're like, oh, we're gonna bring this guy, and then we're gonna bring this guy, and then we're gonna bring this guy. But then they're like, oh, we have a surprise for you. And then I'm like clicking the channels, like waiting for the show to come on. And then finally they do the reveal, right? And then they do this really cool flyer where it's like half Rey Mysterio's face and then half my face. And I was like, dude, what the hell? Like, and I remember at the time I was like I was coming to work to Mexico a lot, and I have a poster back there in one of the rooms, the Viva El Rey tour, which is like Long Live the King tour, which was like Rey Mysterio's homecoming to Mexico. It was this huge tour. Drew McIntyre was on it. Willie Mack, like so many names, dude. It was amazing. It was a really good time. And I had met him, through those tours, and he was just nothing but a sweetheart to me. So I remember at the time, Conan was the guy that brought me to Mexico. This is just backtracking a little bit. Conan was the guy that brought me to Mexico. So Conan put me super. He put me super over to Ray. So when I met with Ray to go over our match, it was like, oh man, like it's like we already like know each other pretty much because we did all these shows, and Conan like put me in a different light in his eyes. So I remember he was injured, and there was like 5,000 people there, dude. Like this is baseball stadium. There's like a lot of people. I remember he was injured, and I was injured, but not my bad knee. My good knee was injured for some reason. So I remember we're both getting all taped up by this trainer, and he's like, oh man, like at first he was like kind of iffy about things that he wanted to do, and he got like I don't know, he got like a second win, and then he wanted to do all this stuff, and it was awesome. Like, and we got to do it in front of like a huge crowd, and I was a Universal Champion. I didn't win, but dude, it was like you're wrestling Rey Mysterio. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, this is
Yeah.
like, and he told me one thing. He's like, you know what? You remind me a little bit of Eddie, and I was like, whoa, dude.
Whoa.
After we wrestled, I was like, whoa. And he did like this big speech after our match, and like he didn't have to do it, and he put me over in front of the crowd, and it was like one of those things I just want to like just cry, but I'm like, no. You know what I mean? It's like, dude,
Yeah.
this guy, I have posters of this guy on my wall, like every little kid that was into lucha libre wanted to be like Rey Mysterio. And there's a saying from like a lot of the wrestlers, very famous in the locker rooms, that it's like, what would Rey Mysterio do? Like when anything happens, like what would Rey Mysterio do? Because he's like the most chill, laid back, nicest person. Like if you ever saw him mad, like it's because you really like got him to that level, to that point. So he's like one of those people that would like just give you the shirt off his back and walk shirtless for you and be cold for you if he needed to. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of person that he is. So like I was able to like experience that, and then we wrestled another time too, a bunch of other times, but that to me was like the most special one. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, I saw the speech. Unfortunately, I don't speak very good Spanish, but it certainly looked that he was really appreciative of you that match. He got on the mic, and you could tell in your eyes that what he was saying was really hitting you hard.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
So
It's like a childhood dream.
we'll go through some fun stuff behind the wrestling now. You've created your own band, Monster Wolf. Talk to me where the inspiration came from with Monster Wolf.
So, as a kid, when I was really young, before I got really, really heavy into, I'm gonna get my body in shape so I could get into wrestling. I always loved music, right? So in Puerto Rico, growing up, I would go to shows with my buddies that were in bands, and I would like do roadie stuff for them. And then I ended up having my own band called Soon to Be Dead when I was like 14 years old, and we played like a couple of shows. I have like a flyer somewhere. And I remember like I was really young, and I ended up playing everything at one point in that band: the drums, the bass, the guitar, and singing, because it
Wow.
was like my band when I was a kid. You know what I mean? And I was I'm a terrible drummer. I have no business doing it, but like it was like my project, right? So when I grew up, I remember a few years ago, my lawyer, who's like also Doyle's lawyer from the Misfits, he's like, "Hey man, Doyle is playing in Florida. You should go check him out." And I'm like, "What do you mean the Misfits are playing? Like, how did I not hear about this?" And he's like, "Nah, Doyle. Doyle has his own band." So I'm like, "Okay." So he's like, "Yeah, I could get you backstage passes or whatever, so you could go meet them and whatever." So I was like, "Hell yeah, dude, I would love that." So I went, and one of the bands that was opening for them, Swift Knuckle Solution, they fucking blew my brains off, dude. They were amazing. Every song they had was catchy, and it was just awesome. So I remember I went to their table to get some merch. I was like, man, like, because that's another thing about me. I love to support people that are DIY, you know what I mean? Like local
Yeah.
bands and stuff like that. So I went over to the merch table and like I bought some stuff. And then my friend who was with me knew the wife of the guitar player who was doing the merch at the table. So then they started talking. And then I met the guitar player and the whole like wrestling subject came about. And finally, like I was like, man, I would love like I've been looking for my own entrance song for like the longest time. I would love to just to like get music from you guys or like try to figure something out, right? So like after I spoke with him and the Doyle set is about to start, I walk over and the bass player, he's like, hey man, are you Mecha Wolf? And I was like, yeah, dude, what's up? I was like, hey man, killer set. And he's like, dude, I'm a huge fan. So like he like knows wrestling, the bass player. So I was like, oh dude, this is perfect. So he knows about wrestling. So this is perfect, right? So I went, I watched the Doyle show. It was awesome. Got to meet him. It was great. So fast forward to a bunch of months later, and I do like a Facebook post. And now Roger and all the guys from the band are my Facebook friends and whatever. So I make this Facebook post. I was like, man, I think I'm gonna start a horror punk band. And Roger is like in. Roger is like in. I was like, dude, this is the freaking guy I wanted because his bass sound is so sick. So then my other friend, who did, because I do bike steel combat training with the Vikings.
Oh, cool, man.
My the other guy that was on my friends list is a guitar player for a really badass band from Florida called Baron Corbin, right? And he did the steel combat training with me. So he goes like, I'm in. And then he dragged this drummer who's like an amazing drummer. So we had all the pieces together and we started a band and we called it Ripper Street, right? And we started the band, everything was great. And as you know, with bands, there's always some drama, there's always like creative differences and stuff. So like I remember like Roger just straight up, he's like, I don't want to play with Tyler, like, because he's like they both get along in real life,
Right.
but musically they don't. You know what I mean? They really were butting heads at times. The first thing that Roger hated, he's like a 50-year-old old guy that's into the Ramones. He's like, he made me turn my bass down or whatever. Like he like made him like he's like, I don't like this key. Like he never like he always I think he's always tuned in like standard. Or like E standard or whatever.
Yeah.
And like Tyler made him tune down like one step. So he hated that. He had to turn down his bass, tune down his bass. So from that point I was like, well, I know if Tyler goes, he's probably gonna take James because they're like this or like me and Bestia. So I was like, well, let's just start a whole new thing. And Roger is like, why don't we just use Swift Knuckle Solution as like the background band? So this is like a lot because this was like a roller coaster. So like when we were gonna start recording, the drummer for Swift Knuckle Solution couldn't record because he had a baby on the way, right? So then they only had one guitar player available. So it was gonna be like Lance was gonna do the guitars, I was gonna do the vocals, Roger was gonna do the bass, and then we had no drummer. So luckily Roger's wife, who's an amazing drummer, Susie, she filled in two songs. So Mommy's a Mutant and Lust for Flesh, both those songs she learned in like 30 minutes and then went to the studio and recorded them.
Wow.
So they did all the stuff separately, and that whole process, like before Monster Wolf started, before Ripper Street started, Swift Knuckle Solution had made me a song that I never used as an entrance called Mecha Wolf. And I remember Roger just saying, dude, why don't we just re-record the vocals with you on it, and instead of saying, face to face with Mecha Wolf in his house of pain, you say face to face with Mecha Wolf in my house of pain. So we re-recorded the song, and it was awesome. So it was so cool because it was like one of those things that like one thing led to another. Like my lawyer telling me that Doyle was playing that night, and me meeting those guys at the Doyle show was just like beautiful because it was like things that you couldn't even plan, and then they just happened that way. And then like a year later, we had a band and an EP out. You know, I was hell bent on releasing everything on Halloween. I was like, I want my EP to come out on Halloween. And I remember it was like a month before Halloween, which is like ridiculous. So I went and recorded the vocals in like 6, 7 hours and just went and cracked down the vocals for 3 songs and pretty much killed my voice almost, just going hard in the studio so I could get these songs and get everything prepped and get everything ready and finally release our first single at Halloween night. And it was awesome because a lot of people liked it, and you were like one of the few people like at first that really got behind it, and you played that song and over there in the UK, and it was really awesome. So like it got a lot of buzz and a lot of exposure, and I'm still working on a ton of stuff right now that I'm gonna release pretty soon. The goal is like at the end of again Halloween time to release a record on vinyl. So that's pretty much the main goal. So hopefully we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man, no, that's awesome. And yeah, you kind of touched on it because I remember the first time we met, I got your single. I think you sent it to me or somebody sent it to me, and I was just like, man, this is sick. So I remember you came in. I was DJing an after party, and got on the mic. I was like, guys, listen to this, and everyone was vibing, man. Like everyone loved that shit, dude.
Yeah.
So, dude, you've obviously
like
got
if
something.
you probably would have said it was me, they probably would have still jammed out to it because it's such a good song.
Yeah, no, it was, man, and it went down really well. And I've played it several times since, and yeah, people always come up to me asking who it is and things like that. So, man, I really can't wait for the full EP to drop, dude. So, man, as soon as that happens, hit me up. We'll get you on. We'll talk about it.
Hell yeah, dude. I really appreciate it. Yeah, like I said, like this quarantine has actually helped me out because I probably wrote like 12, 11 songs.
Wow.
And I blew my amp. So, because I'm alone now, so I'm doing a lot of the guitars. So,
Yeah.
I'm turning one of my rooms actually in like a mini studio in this apartment. So, I'm gonna be recording a lot of stuff pretty soon. The style might be a little different on the stuff because I've been not getting very technical per se, but I wanted to add a couple of different little flavors of the stuff that I'm into to the songs. So like this record might not be like one particular style of music. It might be like a bunch of ones. So again, it's just like my baby. So I'm just pumped to do it. I'm really excited, and it's one of those things that it creates a whole different type of art. It's just you know a really beautiful thing when you could wrestle and then you could also do music because it's like two of my biggest passions for like throughout my whole life. So I'm really happy that I'm able to do it, and I'm really glad that a lot of people got behind it and really supported it too.
I want to finish on a really positive, big kind of project that you had planned this year. WrestleMania weekend is the biggest weekend, not just for the WWE, but for wrestling in general. And
Yep.
for the first ever time in your career, you had planned your own event over there, man. Like the talent you had on that roster for your own WrestleMania show that weekend was incredible. Obviously, because of situations, didn't take place. Are we still going to see Mecha Wolf put a WrestleMania weekend together for 2021?
That's actually like my goal because man, you gotta think like it was really heartbreaking because we put a lot of time, a lot of effort into like making these flyers and like running around and like calling people, texting people, messaging people, making all these posts. Um, it was a lot of work, and it was like one of those things that I always wanted to do, mainly because you see a lot of people do shows WrestleMania week, and you see the same guys in the same cards, in the same flyers, and I was like, man, like, why don't we get the little guys opportunities, the people that are not gonna get showcased anywhere else, the people that probably been emailing these companies for 4 years straight trying to get on their shows WrestleMania week, why don't we give them a chance, right? So Wolf's Night Out to me was at first I remember like this was many many years ago when I was like I remember me and Celeste Bowden, who's like a great friend of mine now, we were talking about this like years ago. We were gonna call it Hell Circus, and we were gonna do it, right? And then like for one thing or another thing, I was like, you know what, let's put it on hold. And then like finally the opportunity came to do it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna call it Wolf's Night Out. I'm gonna bring my friends, my band, my friends that are in bands. I'm gonna bring all the weird people that I know, and I'm gonna throw this ball of insanity into an all variety show that people are gonna enjoy, and I'm not gonna wrestle. I'm gonna get opportunities. I'm gonna give opportunities to the people that are not gonna have opportunities the rest of or we're never gonna get an opportunity, like I remember the last time I went over to the UK, like I met some guys and I had them booked on my show. I met some guys that drove over from LA to a crash show just so they could maybe get on the show if someone wasn't gonna be there and they couldn't get a chance that night. um, but I booked them on my show as well, so like a lot of people, man, you can say whatever you want about me, but I always try my best to help out people, because nobody knows what it feels like to be left in the dust, and like more than me, right? So I don't want people to feel that. I want people to feel good. And dude, there was so many people that messaged me about these shows, people that I never even spoke to, people that I don't like, people that were just kissing ass to get on my shows. And you know what? I put every single thought into telling them to go fuck themselves, but I didn't. You know what I mean? I was like, no, you know what? I'm gonna help you out too, because that's the best way to like let these people know. It's like, dude, I'm not like you,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, absolutely.
I had legends. I had women representing a lot of different countries. I had girls flying from Mexico. I had people flying from the UK. Fucking one of my best friends flying from Australia. Like that was going to be like one of his shows that he was going to be part of. Um, I'm telling you, dude. Like I have people from all over the world, from my friends, people that I met throughout every single walk of life, from burlesque dancers to wrestlers to bands, and they were all my friends, and they were all there for me, and we were gonna make history. So of course I'm gonna try to do it again, when everything goes back to normal. My plan is to do it in LA once everything gets, you know, everything goes back to normal. My big plan, if I could do it, is like I really want to do a show at the Whiskey Go Go, because
Oh,
Whiskey Go
fantastic.
Go is, one of the most famous rock and roll venues, and like I know so many bands. Like I said, man, like I love wrestling, but I love music just as much. So like I met a lot of really cool people throughout music. So that would be my goal, to do that show at the Whiskey Go Go if possible. If not, we could do it somewhere else, but definitely is something I want to do, because I think it will be something that will not only give opportunity to people that didn't have it, but it will be one of those shows that, even if you're not a fan of wrestling, even if you're not a fan of burlesque wrestling, even if you're not a burlesque dancing, sorry, even if you're not a fan of music, there will be something in that show that you're gonna like, and you're gonna tell your friend, and your friend's gonna tell your friends, and so on and on. So I wanted to do something special, and there was not gonna be any show like that in any WrestleMania week show that week. I had freaking fire breathers, burlesque
Oh
dancers.
man.
I had bands. I had Vikings that were gonna do a live steel combat exhibition.
Wow.
Because I've met a lot of weirdos in my life. So, and like I said, like if I was a dick, none of these people would have supported me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Absolutely,
a
man.
lot of a lot of these people were just there for me. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people didn't even want to get paid. A lot of people weren't going there for money. I wasn't gonna make any money. You know what I mean? Because it was like a thing that I wanted to do for our boys, for my people. And of course I'm gonna try to do it again. I'm not gonna give up in doing that. If that's the last thing I do in my life, trust me, I'm gonna do it. And if it's successful, man, trust me, we'll do it every year.
Yeah, man, absolutely, dude. And I'm gonna be in LA. I'm doing everything in my power to get out there. So, bro, I'll be there, man, supporting and living the dream with you, bro. So,
Hell
yeah, I
yeah, dude.
really can't wait, man. Dude, this has been awesome, and like I feel like we could do this for another like 2 or 3 hours. Like I really do.
Yeah, right.
Um, you know, whether it be when you next come to the UK or even if I come over to Tijuana, bro, let's get some mics, let's get a camera, let's get outside a really cool bar and let's do this all over again because I
Yes,
think
sir.
we've got so much more to cover.
Oh,
You know,
dude, we barely scratched the surface, but I'm
yeah,
really glad we did it.
absolutely, man. So I think there's a lot more to talk about, but you know, for this hour and like 20 minutes, I think like this is my longest interview. I've had the longest notes so far,
Wow.
and it's with the first international wrestler I've had. So, and not just that, but you're a great friend. And you know what? There are a lot of people that say things on the internet, whether that be to whoever, but what I can say about you is you're always positive, you're always happy and upbeat, and dude, you're fucking great in the ring. Like I will
Thank you,
never
man.
kiss your ass, but you're fucking great in the ring, man.
Thank you. Thank you. I
So
work
yeah,
hard.
man, you do, man, you do. But yeah, dude, like let's do this all over again. Thank you so much for taking time. I know it's like quite early there now, well maybe like lunchtime, but I appreciate you taking the time to join us on the Gone Gold podcast, man.
Oh, thank you for having me, man. And I'm eternally grateful to you and all of my people over there in the UK, the ones that know, my close friends over there. So, like I said, dude, it's like one of those things. Like, it just feels good to talk to you, and I'm happy that you're doing this because it's something that you wanted to do. And I remember us talking about it at a bar, and it's so cool that you're making it happen. And thank you, man. Thank you for having me.